writers. The last time we were together, you got started drafting your second story idea. And by now, you're probably at the place where you're thinking, how can I make it even better? And so today, I felt that I could help you out by giving a little bit of a tip. Here's today's tip. The best stories, the ones you want to keep reading over and over and over again, are the stories where the characters have some secret thoughts, where the author works really hard to bring out the internal life of the story, to bring out their quirks in different ways. It's when the character says one thing, but is really thinking another thing. And in order to do this work, oftentimes what authors do is they actually pretend to be the character. And then as they pretend to be that character, they try to be really true and honest in the moment and think, what would I really say? Or what would I really do that I wouldn't say out loud or that I wouldn't do aloud? And that oftentimes helps them to bring their character even more to life. I know the other day I was talking about Poppleton, and I've been thinking about Poppleton a lot lately, especially when we think about how Poppleton relates to others. Like, can you imagine Cherry Sue being your neighbor and coming over day after day after day, inviting you to come to breakfast and lunch and dinner when you love being isolated and by yourself? I'm sure Poppleton was like, oh, criminy, here she is again. But really, what did he do? He went over to Cherry Sue's house for breakfast and lunch and dinner. What he was probably thinking and feeling was very different from what he was actually doing. And that's how writers can make their characters even more special. So I thought that we could try this out a little bit on my second AJ story. I wrote a little bit of a draft. I just got started with my story yesterday, but I really want to think about how I can make AJ come to life with some secret thoughts. So let's take a look at my story and see what we can come up with. So first thing, I want to read my story and I want to think about where might I be able to put in some of these little secret thoughts and quirkiness pieces. So let's read it together. Go ahead with me. AJ set his tray on the table where the other boys sat and pulled in with them. He squirted a line of ketchup along his hot dog while he listened to the talk at the table. Look at her. She can't keep her hair out of her mouth, one of the boys said. I'm going to stop because this is probably a place where AJ most likely was having some thoughts. Like here he is, he's sitting at the table and the kids are making fun of this girl. And so at that moment, I have to think like, what is he doing versus what is he thinking? So maybe he's sitting there just kind of like, going along with it. And he might even chuckle, like, right? He might chuckle a little bit. For a moment, he probably did that. But I'm thinking like, what is he saying in his brain when that's going on? Maybe he's thinking something like, it's true. She was sucking on that bit of hair, and she always does that. But then maybe AJ saw the girl do a little flinch, and he actually, deep in the pit of his stomach, felt really bad. And maybe he said something like, I'm so glad I'm not in her shoes right now. Do you see how I did that, friends? Do you see how I started to think about my story and I just read a little part of it and I thought, how can I bring out what's happening inside my character where he's sort of like thinking, feeling one way, but he's saying and doing something totally different. That's the kind of thing that can bring your characters to life. And so today, as you go off and you continue to work, one thing you want to do is you want to make sure you make a plan for your writing time. Think back over what you need to do as a writer. Do you need to finish going back and doing your draft from yesterday? Or are you ready to try this strategy out? or maybe even another revision strategy. Here, let's remember the things that we already know we can try to do. All right. So today, as you go off, remember you could rewrite some of the important parts. You can think about adding in some twin sentences. You could work hard to bring the characters to life, maybe doing the thing that we talked about today of the secret thoughts and quirkinesses. Or you can work to reread and just make a plan for yourself. So as you go off, or actually before you go off, can you take 1 minute and just think, what am I going to work on as a writer? And actually grab a little post it note. Jot down your plan for today. So that way you have it in mind and you can keep checking in with yourself as you go. And then when you're ready, get going. Bring that character to life. Off you go.